welcome back to Through the Looking Glass. This week I have a special guest with me. Her name is Kathy Mou. She's a empowerment coach, and she has a really cool podcast, a fellow self-improvement podcaster. So I'm very happy to have her on. Thank you so much for joining. Introduce yourself, like tell us about your career and your podcast.
Awesome. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be here and just so excited to meet like-minded people. So, I am Kathy and I'm a certified health and life coach. I empower people to live the bliss soft life. That's a concept that came about with going through like tapping into my spirituality
Mm-hmm.
and my higher self like came to me with this idea or this
Yeah.
concept, which is crazy. I guess we could talk about it a little more in depth later,
Yeah,
but
yeah, we're definitely going to talk about it
yeah.
later.
So I have my own podcast as well, Ignite Your Power. It's just kind of like talking about the bliss of life and really understanding yourself through self-love, self-care, and yeah, self-improvement and through mindset and manifestation. So this is what I teach people, and I'm here.
Yeah, amazing. I find your podcast so interesting and the way you're so conversational and open, and I'm sure you
Oh,
translate that to your coaching as well. So that's really cool that you do both. You're kind of taking self-improvement to the online
yeah,
world, but also
yeah,
one-on-one. I'll
yeah.
definitely include a link to your podcast in the description if anyone wants to find you.
Awesome.
First question is related to your podcasting. So just tell me
Yes.
about how you got started. Like, what was the journey? What inspired it?
So my journey, if you didn't know me, like as a kid, I'm an ESL kid, so my parents came here
Mm-hmm.
as immigrants. So I spoke
Mm-hmm.
Mandarin Chinese growing up. And I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a very white town, and we're like one of the only Asian people in town. So I
Mm-hmm.
had no confidence in me. I was one of the most insecure kids. And growing up, having that upraising, I was already super quiet and never spoke up. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went through my infertility phase in
Mm-hmm.
2019 for 2 years, and that was kind of what got me into wanting
Mm-hmm.
to help other people. So I felt alone. I
Mm-hmm.
found out that endometriosis caused my infertility, and that was
Mm-hmm.
another chronic illness that I wish I
Mm-hmm.
knew about earlier, that I could kind of
Mm-hmm.
like empower myself and to learn more about myself. And that was when, in my 30s, that was when I was
Mm-hmm.
actually understanding myself. And I was like, what? This is wild. Like,
Right.
how am I not in tune with myself? How am I not
Yeah.
understanding how my body works? Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
speaking up. I'm just not who I am. And I was just so not happy. I was depressed. And then
Mm-hmm.
so it led me into having this podcast and to trying to help other people. And I just
Mm-hmm.
found a community of women who are going through a lot of this stuff
Mm-hmm.
too, like infertility and endometriosis. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
And so that's how my podcast came about.
Yeah, that's really cool that you had the courage to share your experience because I'm sure so many people felt so seen. And I think when you go through infertility issues, you probably feel like you're the only one. So I'm sure it was
Yeah,
really helpful to be part of a community like that. And
yeah,
look at you now, it's like grown so much,
I know.
and you're talking
Aw,
about broader topics. So that's,
yeah.
you always like start with something that seems maybe like a little bit more of your personal experience and you're just kind of
Yeah.
playing around with, let me just put it out there. And then you never know
Mm-hmm.
where it goes. And
Yeah.
did that inspire your coaching as well, or were you coaching before that?
Yes. No, yeah, and inspired my coaching as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've always wanted to help other people, and I've always been
Mm-hmm.
empathic and always wanting to help others. Like
Mm-hmm.
all my friends and family come to me for advice all the time,
Yeah.
and I just didn't know that I could
Yeah.
make it as a career. So
Yeah.
someone, I don't know, somehow coaching
Mm-hmm.
came about, and I was like, oh my God, this is like
Mm-hmm.
perfect for me. I would love
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just like trying to help other people go through what I've already done and
Mm-hmm.
researched and spent so much time overcoming and
Mm-hmm.
like making it easier for somebody that like makes me happy, you know?
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you find joy in helping other people.
Aw,
And I think that like the world has changed so much with like traditional jobs
Yeah.
that, you know, when we were in
Yes.
school, the concept of a coach, like a personal
Yeah.
coach, it was
Yeah.
non-existent. So
Yeah.
you didn't have that chance to aspire to be one, you know. So
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think like our
Yeah.
generation is figuring it out as we go, and there's so many new career paths. And even what you said about like
Yeah.
being the advice friend, I can relate to that because I've always kind of had
Yeah.
that as well,
Yeah.
where I was maybe like a little bit more mature for my age. So I kind of turned out to
Yeah.
be the advice friend as well. And now sometimes I forget that like, you know, when you like, figure something out and you're like, okay, I understand like, you know, how to be just being like, you know, a little bit more self-aware. And you kind of, once you
Yeah.
check it off of your growth, you forget that maybe people around you are maybe
Hmm.
not quite there, and maybe they would find it
Yeah.
beneficial to hear from you. And that's part of what I'm doing this year with my solo episodes. So I switch between guest and solo episodes. And the solo episodes, I just talk about
Awesome.
different topics that, you
Yeah.
know, I find interesting that I've kind of gone through my own process. Like my recent one was with confidence. And, you know, it feels like
Love it.
something that I've kind of like figured out for myself, but I'm sure, I hope that people relate to it because they're still figuring it out. And I'm happy to share
Yeah.
and put it out there. So I think that's the coolest part about podcasting. And I'm sure you can
Yeah.
relate as well because you've been doing this longer than I have.
Oh, yeah, it's so true. Like,
Hmm.
right now I don't have any guests on my podcast, which I'm gonna have
Hmm.
you come on as like
Yes,
one of my
yay.
first
Stay tuned.
guests. It's gonna be, yes, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be exciting.
Hmm.
But yeah, at first it's nerve-wracking, right? It's like
Hmm.
doing something new that you're not used to, but then now,
Totally.
like once I'm on the mic, I'm like, oh man, I just can't stop talking. No wonder
Yeah.
I was made for this,
Yeah.
But like it's kind of nerve-wracking at
Hmm.
first to do solo episodes because you're like, what am
Hmm.
I going to talk about? But really,
Yeah.
it's like, man, we're so passionate about a topic, you could just talk
Hmm.
about it forever. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what's beautiful about both of us is that we both
Hmm.
want to help other. We just want to help other people, and we're just trying to
Hmm.
spread our knowledge to just inform others. And
Hmm.
if we can help in any other way or just a little bit, it'll just make us
Hmm.
happy. I think it's
Yeah.
just the empaths in us.
Yeah. Thing that so I want to talk a little bit more about the specific thing that you've talked about in your podcast.
Yeah.
So you call
Yeah.
it the Bliss soft life, and it's just this
Yes.
like interesting term that
Yeah.
you've coined. So I want to know
Yeah.
more about it for people who don't know what that means. Like, what does it mean? How did you come up
Yeah.
with it?
Yes. I love talking about this. So thank you for asking this
Of
question.
course.
So it's the BS life, the bliss soft life.
Hmm.
It's not the, regular BS that you think of. It's the
Yeah.
exact opposite. It's
Yeah.
like the pun, which is so funny.
Hmm.
So think about bliss and soft, right? Both of those terms are like very calming,
Hmm.
content. Like, so when you're living this life, it's like when you're in your full power, like you know that you're this amazing soul being
Hmm.
that, everything in your life should actually be easier than what you really think. And
Hmm.
most of it is through our mindset, right? We always think that everything's supposed to be hard to get what you want in life, but it
Hmm.
doesn't actually have to be that way. If you really know how confident and how
Hmm.
like I guess the universe really works if you're into like you have to
Hmm.
kind of be spiritual in this way where
Hmm.
you believe in God or spirituality, etc.
Hmm.
And when you tap into that power, you just know that you're this amazing being and you just trust that everything's working out for yourself
Hmm.
and for your life, I guess. So it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be hard. And when
Hmm.
you're in this state of like your own power, you just feel
Hmm.
bliss, you feel content, you just feel happy. And it just
Hmm.
all goes and stems from your self worth and self love.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the
So yeah,
explanation.
that's a love.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I love that it ties into the name of your podcast as well, Ignite Your Power. So it really
Yeah.
ties everything
Oh,
together.
thank you.
I don't know if you had like
Yeah.
planned that or if it just
Yeah.
kind of happened to just all
No.
connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yes, isn't that crazy? It just
Yeah,
all connected.
yeah.
And it's because I always feel like
Hmm.
there's always a reason for something and I just don't know
Yeah,
it yet until
yeah,
you go through it and you figure it out and you're like,
yeah,
"Oh my
yeah.
gosh." And this is how the
Hmm.
concept came about was just like
Hmm.
being more spiritual, like more meditative and
Hmm.
just trying to connect to more of like the
Mhm.
spiritual side of me. And growing
Yeah.
up, I'm not a spiritual person at
Mhm.
all. Like I did not
Yeah.
even learn about this.
Mhm.
So my infertility stage got me into
Mhm.
spirituality and
Mhm.
just trusting, giving me hope that I'll be a mom one
Mhm.
day, which
Yeah.
it did happen for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's when it confirmed for me, like, oh, wow, I
Mhm.
am onto something. So I kind of like went a
Right.
little crazy on that. But
Yeah.
anyways, I was just having coffee one day and
Mhm.
I've been listening to like motivational speeches, podcasts, etc., just like bettering myself spiritually.
Mhm.
And then just out of nowhere, this concept came to me and I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like it
Yeah.
just was like the bliss soft life, like the BS life. And I was like, wait, what?
Mhm.
And like in my head, it just popped up. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is crazy. Like,
Mhm.
I must be crazy, but I feel like it's like my higher self telling me, like,
Yeah.
this is what my life purpose is here to
Mhm.
do. And then I already made my podcast like
Mhm.
name long before. Like,
Mhm.
I just want to teach people how to be powerful and
Mhm.
just, have
Yeah.
confidence in themselves. And then, yeah,
Mhm.
everything tied in. So thanks for
Mhm.
noticing that. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, totally. I feel like I'm not quite at your level of like being spiritual, but when it comes, I'm like thinking back, and I'm realizing that with my podcast name as well, it just kind of came
Yeah,
to me. But I mean, I kind of like
yeah,
Loki stole it from, inspired by the name of a book. But I remember it was like
yeah,
beginning of last year, and I, sort of had the idea of like, hey, I kind of want to do a podcast. Like, I think that might be,
yeah,
something that I want to pursue. But it just felt like such a daunting thing, and like, oh, it's gonna take me a long time to get
yeah,
started, and like all of that. And I was like, okay, like I guess
yeah,
I'll get started, once I can think of a name. And that was kind of like the goal that I set in
yeah.
my mind. And literally it was like days later,
Mm-hmm.
like within like that week, the name came to me that okay, I should call
Yeah,
it Through the Looking Glass. And then it just like
that's awesome.
was, I felt like a sign that okay, like you are
Yeah.
procrastinating because you don't have a name. And it's like there you
Mm-hmm.
go.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes I've like
Wow.
doubted the name. I was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
kind of long. Like, is it the right one? Is it the right feel? But eventually, once I went through my experimentation phase and did different types of interviews, I kind of landed on self-improvement is what I want to focus on. It kind of suits me the most. And then I
Yeah.
feel like now the name kind of just, it works. It ties it together. Like, so I don't know. Like, I just feel like you said, that you sometimes when you're going through it, you certainly don't know what the purpose or
Yeah.
intention is. But eventually, it makes sense, or you're like, okay, I guess I had to go through that to learn something, and that's,
Yeah.
part of life. And sometimes we just kind of have
Yeah.
to go with the flow a little bit and just try to be
Mm-hmm.
present.
Yes. That's another piece of like, when you're so in tune with yourself and like
Hmm.
spirituality, like you just understand that everything actually is in your higher good. Like when you have
Hmm.
that mindset, things feel easier, like instead of feeling like you're victimized or like
Hmm.
everything's against you,
Hmm.
because I've
Yeah.
been depressed. That's what I had. I
Hmm.
had that mindset for
Hmm.
like 2 years. And then
Hmm.
when I'm actually, train my brain to think differently, like, okay, actually, there's a reason for this. It gives you
Hmm.
hope, it gives you inspiration, it helps you move forward. And
Hmm.
it's just like, it helps you live in the moment. I think, like,
Yeah.
how everybody always says, like, live in the present moment. And I never
Yeah.
understood that because I always,
Yeah.
we always, our logical mind
Hmm.
always looks for
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the future. Or then, like, oh
Hmm.
my God, this happened to me in the past. Like, and
Hmm.
that's why you're scared.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you actually live in the
Hmm.
moment? And it's like
Hmm.
just being so confident and happy with your life day to day,
Hmm.
and it's sounds so cliche, but
Yeah.
it really is. Like when all
Yeah.
these thought leaders or all these like spiritual
Hmm.
leaders say like just be in the present moment, like there is
Hmm.
something to it.
Hmm.
you know
No, totally. I mean, things are a cliche because they're
yeah,
true, So uh,
yeah, yes,
sometimes
yes,
I feel like we kind of lose sight of that. But you're totally right. When I was
yeah,
younger, or like, in university and stuff, I'm sure there were times where I
yeah,
felt like, or even after that, young 20s, where why am I going through this? Or like, why am I the person who, is going through bad breakups, or, whatever, like certain things are not working out.
yeah,
And I think when
yeah,
you're in it, like it just, if you are in the mindset of, like you said, the victim mindset, and you are just,
yeah,
like sinking into the feeling of just being really down on yourself and feeling like everything is against
Yeah.
you, then it's only going to reflect back in real life because you are going to get the energy that you're putting out. So I think that's where when you become detached and you believe that everything is, like you said, in your greater interest, and you just take the
Yeah.
challenges as you go, and you try to be humble, and you're putting your best foot
Yeah.
forward, and when you do have those challenges, you just tell yourself, okay, I'm meant to have this
Yeah.
challenge, I'm gonna figure it out, and have that faith in yourself. That's when you're putting
Yeah.
out like a higher level of energy, and then, before you know
Yes.
it, like you're gonna start getting the things that you actually want.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
I love how you just talked about energy. Ah, it's so true. It's like, how did you
Hmm.
realize, like,
Hmm.
if you vibe at a higher vibration or energy, like,
Yeah.
how did you start learning about that? I
Yeah.
love this topic.
Yeah, I know. That's a great question. I'm not sure if I had like, an exact moment where that, kind of flipped for
Yeah.
me. But I think at one point I had to really realize that it's not personal, like, and if something
Yeah.
is not going my way from a young age, sort of had this like,
Yeah.
glass half full mentality, where I would start looking at
Mm.
like the optimistic things, and like I was that kid, like I was just kind of happy in life in general. And I would think about
Yeah.
like other people's perspective. So I think I had that in me. But as I was getting older and like, just living the adult life and like going through things, you get caught up
Yeah.
in like so many things. And then you realize that sometimes there's
Yeah.
like people who are maybe uh, not quite as like matured as you are, and you see like
Mm-hmm.
their reactions, and then you realize, wait, like, am I thinking that too? Where I'm like down on myself,
Yeah.
but then you kind of like becoming like the third person in your own life and assessing
Yeah.
yourself and
Yeah.
being like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Instead of just blaming the world for everything else, and
Yeah.
thinking about like, okay, this, bad experience happened. Let's just say it's with like work or whatever. Okay, what did I do wrong in this situation? It's so easy to be like, oh, I'm not in the wrong, like I'm always right. Like, it's so easy to think that, and that's kind of like the easier path. But when you start thinking
Mm-hmm.
about what is like harder to do, I would say, is assessing like, okay,
Yeah.
what are my own toxic traits? Like, what are things that I'm
Yeah.
thinking like internally that's maybe bringing down my own ability to succeed? I think that like slowly kind of brings you to uh, just getting into like a higher vibration in general. So I think
Yeah.
it's baby steps for sure. But
Yeah.
so there's no like
Yeah.
magic formula that either of us can share, right? Like you have to go through your own process. But I think the steps are
Yeah.
really realizing that it's not about you, and you want to think about other people's
Yeah.
perspective, and you want to think about what you're putting out. And if you are thinking good
Yeah.
things, and you are thinking that, I'm capable and I'm going to keep trying, and even if it's not working out for me right now, and just like all these like cliche things that we always see about, hard work and
Yeah.
resilience, it's so true. And I think you have to believe that you're capable of something before other people are going to believe in it. And if you're waiting for other people to
Yeah.
tell you that you are capable, other people are never going to tell you that. So I think that's a big part
Yeah.
that I realized in the past couple of years that's really helped me to just go for things instead of worrying about external validation. And I think that's a huge thing for a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially in their 20s and
Yes.
30s. But I want to tie it
Yes.
back to the soft bliss life.
Yeah.
So I know it kind of like
Yeah.
revolves around like the same concepts. What steps do you think
Yeah.
that people can take? Like, I'm sure, some listeners might be thinking, this all sounds great. Like, that's who I want to be, but I have
Yeah.
no idea how to get there.
Yeah. So it literally starts with being
Mm-hmm.
aware. So first thing
Yeah.
is like, where are you unhappy about life? Like just
Mm-hmm.
to understand and get to know yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, is a lot of us don't even know what we like, what really makes
Mm-hmm.
us happy.
Yeah.
And we're so out of tune with ourselves because
Mm-hmm.
as a community, we're taught to like
Mm-hmm.
follow the crowd, follow everybody
Yeah.
else, like be like,
Yeah.
the celebrities. But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
is that really you, or you're just trying
Yeah.
to fit in, right?
Yeah.
So it's like taking your own power, being
Mm-hmm.
aware of like yourself. and then doing some
Mhm.
self-love, self-care things. And a lot of us don't do this. And these two things are actually separate things. Like when
Mhm.
I ask people, I'm like, what do you do for self-love? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, they list self-care things, meaning,
Yeah.
let me tell you an example, like,
Mhm.
oh, I work out, I like take baths. I'm like, those are
Yeah.
self-care things.
Yeah.
Self-love is actually
Mhm.
loving yourself emotionally, like
Yeah.
how you love somebody else, right? And a
Mhm.
lot of us don't even know how to do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. I started giving
Uh-huh.
myself hugs.
Oh, that's so
Never done
cute.
that before.
Yeah.
I go
So,
like this to myself and
uh-huh.
I'm like, I love you,
Yeah.
Kathy. And I say
Aw.
powerful affirmations. And you
Right.
start feeling the
Mhm.
vibe of like,
Yeah.
you feel a vibration or a tingling things like
Mhm.
or something. Like you're supposed to
Mhm.
have these really good positive energy vibrations. You
Mhm.
know you're doing something right. And it just
Mhm.
takes those little simple things to just start
Mhm.
living a bliss off life.
Yeah.
And when you feel this good energy, you're going to want more and more and more, and you're going to live more
Mhm.
and more
Yeah.
into it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's how we're
Mhm.
meant to live.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really great point about finding, things that is maybe bringing out like your best abilities.
Yeah.
And I think as a society, we
Yeah.
do fail at doing that a little bit. I actually
Yes.
saw this like stat recently. I'm an engineer, so it kind of caught my eye that only like
Yeah.
25% of people who have like STEM degrees actually have a job in like a traditional STEM role. I thought that was very
Yeah.
interesting because I feel like when, I was
Wow.
growing up and like go become an engineer was kind of like pushed a lot. So it kind of made me think about like
Yeah.
so many of my friends who started off as engineers, they're all doing different things now. And it would have been like so much easier as a society if
Yeah.
from the get-go, if people weren't, pushed to go become a lawyer or engineer, doctor, and, just kind of
Yeah.
pushing people into like the traditional
Exactly.
paths and maybe figuring out, I'm sure there's
Mhm.
like people who would be great for those paths, but at the same time, maybe it's not a fit
Exactly.
for like everybody and maybe putting more emphasis on
Yeah.
finding things that you have an ability in and then bringing that up through your career path and helping people, go through like the right path earlier on would make a huge difference,
Yes.
especially with like education being
Yeah.
so expensive because some people go back to grad school because they're trying to
Yeah.
change career paths and things like that. So I think as a society, we can definitely do better.
Exactly. I feel that
Hmm.
too because I'm in a traditional role too. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm a patent paralegal, so it's like,
Hmm.
you're in the traditional
Yeah.
careers, but I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, I I feel that like
Hmm.
we're getting more awakened, we're being more
Yeah.
aware as a society where, our
Hmm.
generation is having our kids be less like us, which is great, where,
Hmm.
we want them to be more creative. We let them
Hmm.
like, be more
Yeah.
powerful and be more them, which is beautiful to see. This is what I'm teaching my daughter too,
Hmm.
or I'm trying to teach her this.
Yeah.
But,
She's very
you know,
lucky.
like I just yeah, thank you. And I just want, like if we just grew up following our passions and
Hmm.
having, parents who allow us to be artistic or to speak our
Hmm.
truth, like we would have
Yeah.
been on these podcasts a long time ago, like instead
Yeah.
of like later
Yeah.
on in our life, or
Hmm.
questioning ourselves,
Right,
right? And a
right.
lot of us do question
Yeah.
ourselves because it's
Hmm.
the lack of confidence. It's
Hmm.
because what we grew up, with, like
Hmm.
being silent, like,
Yeah.
me being an ESL kid,
Hmm.
being different. Like you're
Hmm.
scared to be different. That's what we're taught.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
if you're different, that
Hmm.
means it's bad. It's like actually now when you're
Yeah.
older, you're like, I love
Hmm.
being different. Like I want to be my own
Yeah.
individual.
Hmm.
Like we're all like now, now I'm
Hmm.
35. I'm like, I love
Hmm.
being my own person. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I'm a twin.
Uh-huh.
And I've always had somebody next to
Yeah.
me. We've done
Hmm.
everything together, like seriously since
Hmm.
up to college. Like we even went to
Hmm.
UCLA together.
Hmm.
It was hard to find my own identity, but now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, we're two individual people. Like,
Right.
it's beautiful. It's nice
Hmm.
to like, and it's even harder when you're a twin, right? To
Hmm.
disconnect and
Oh,
try to be
totally.
different because
Yeah.
right? Everybody's like, oh,
Hmm.
you're a twin. You guys are so
Hmm.
blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, we're trying to be individuals, no.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. I have a sister we're very close in age. We're only a year apart in
Awesome.
school. So I think we got that a lot
Wow.
too. I mean, I can't, it's like not the same thing as being a
Yeah.
twin, of course,
Yeah.
people will like think that we look alike and stuff like that. So we've gotten
Yeah.
that before. So that's definitely like an added pressure to like live up to your
Yes.
sibling or like when people expect you to be
Yeah.
similar. Another
Yes.
thing that like stands out to me when you were talking about, society tends to want you to just be one of the many, and like fitting in is encouraged in
Yes.
many ways. And when you're talking about ESL, it brings
Mhm.
back memories of like, me being a child of an immigrant, middle school and
Yeah.
like elementary school. I remember I would
Yeah.
like come home and like not want to take like Indian food for lunches, and it
Oh,
was all from
yeah. Oh
like
my
I don't know
God.
if you like had that experience where
Yeah.
as like Asian
Yes.
kids, like we don't want to bring like
Yes.
even though we loved our mom's cooking, we don't want to bring it to school because we wanted to fit
Yeah.
in and be part of like the lunch crew and stuff,
Yes.
which is you know
Yes.
like such a like sad thing for like a little kid to go through, but
I
it was all about like fitting in.
know.
But I think now that I'm
Yeah.
older, like I don't give a fuck. Like I will like,
Yeah.
carry like our traditions on my shoulders and like
Yeah.
be
Exactly.
like open and like be comfortable in it. But
And
I used to feel
and
uncomfortable in
yeah.
it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Now I'm proud to be like Chinese.
Hmm.
And then looking back, I'm like, dude, like
Yeah.
everybody like loves these
Yeah.
type of foods now, like,
Uh-huh.
but back then it
Yeah.
was not known. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you want the fruit roll up and like all this,
Hmm. Lunchables.
all this, yeah, like not to hate on it, but it's like more
Yeah. Yeah.
processed
Yeah.
foods versus
Yeah.
like these like,
Hmm.
home cooked with love
Hmm.
type of food. And it's like
Yeah.
actually that's the thing that everybody wants now, or most
Yeah.
kids have that now, like
Yeah. Yeah.
luckily.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I totally get it. And you're just like,
Hmm.
my food's always more like smellier, like it's more
Yeah.
fragrant than like
Hmm.
other people. So you're trying to like
Yeah.
throw it away or like hide
Hmm.
it. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then you see other kids like switching lunches, and you're like, I wish I could
Hmm.
do that, but they don't know what my food is. So how do
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
trade,
Hmm.
Like you feel not part of the community. Like,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
the thing. And
Yeah.
I just wish as a our generation that we
Hmm.
got more love
Yeah.
for being different and like,
Right, right.
you know,
Yeah.
like
No,
that would have been
totally.
nice.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that like people or like the kids who are in school now are maybe more exposed to just other
Yeah.
cultures in general. So I hope that like they're nicer to
Yeah.
each other in that way. But
Yeah.
we definitely didn't have that when, I think both of us
Yeah.
were growing up. Like for myself,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
there was probably only like maybe one other Indian family in our school.
Yeah.
So we were definitely the minority. I don't know, like growing up in California, if you had a
Yes.
different experience.
Nope. It was the same thing, minority. We lived
Uh-huh.
in like a very white suburban town, so
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the only other Asian family. I think
Mm-hmm.
there was another, like maybe one other.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
like we were trying to fit in and
Yeah,
not be different. So it was hard.
totally.
But
Totally. Yeah.
now, but like I said, like
Mm-hmm.
now you
Yeah.
see it, like our
Mm-hmm.
upbringings
Yeah.
has taught us to overcome that. And then like look at
Mm-hmm.
us both now, like being on
Mm-hmm.
our own podcast
Yeah.
and then like
Yeah.
meeting each other, which is so beautiful, right?
Yeah,
Isn't like
definitely.
beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
No, totally. I think like now I think we both probably feel so much more comfortable in our own skin, and we're happy to share,
yes.
all the parts that
Yes.
maybe we had gone through when we were younger where, we were
Mm-hmm.
hiding away, and but the thing is like that's what makes us
Yeah,
special. The heritage that we do
exactly.
have and those experiences that definitely has
Mm-hmm.
shaped us so much. So I think that could be like
Yeah.
a great thing that we share with the world, that,
Yeah.
it's completely
Yeah.
okay to be your own individual person. It's like okay to be
Yeah.
different. I think now being different is
Yeah.
and being embraced a lot more. So that's always great to see.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it. I love how like
Hmm.
this is what I'm saying. Like we're more aware now, and I
Hmm.
feel like our generation's more aware of
Hmm.
like how special we are. And this
Yeah.
is like what we're both teaching. And
Hmm.
self, like when you love yourself, that's when you can broadcast this nice high vibrational energy to other
Hmm.
people, because when they you're
Yeah.
setting an example when you when people see you, they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
love your vibe. Like when
Yeah.
I met you, I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
love your vibe. We
Yeah, me
mesh. Like,
too. Yeah.
we're like on the same
Mhm.
vibration, like same energy. And like,
Mhm.
people see that and then they're gonna like be
Mhm.
attracted more to that and then be
Yeah.
like, oh, how can I do that? Like, how did,
Yeah.
and then it's like, we're humans too. Like
Mhm.
we've overcame lots of things. And
Mhm.
like, if we could do it, then that means you can do it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Totally
what I
true.
love about us,
Mhm. Yeah.
that we could
Yeah.
do that and set that for other people.
No, totally. It inspires my next question a little bit. So in your
Yeah.
podcast, you talk about the connection between mind and body. Can you um
Yes.
can you maybe talk a little bit about how you can get into a positive mindset?
Yes, a positive mindset is, I know it can be hard. And again,
Mm-hmm.
it's like another cliche, like, oh, how can you be so positive all the time? Obviously,
Yeah.
you're not going to be positive 100% of the time, but
Mm-hmm.
what you can do for yourself is literally just be grateful for what you have. So, what I
Mm-hmm.
always teach my clients is to
Yeah.
practice gratitude every single day. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so
Yeah.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always in the lack mindset of what we do not
Mm-hmm.
have, but we never appreciate what we do have.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I would tell them, if they're down or depressed or, sad,
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
say, please practice this for at least the next week.
Yeah.
Wake up in the morning and be grateful for three things. Just list three
Mm-hmm.
things. And before you go to bed, say three things you are grateful for.
Yeah.
And yes, this is such a simple thing and you don't think it's going to shift your mind. But
Mm-hmm.
trust me, when you do this often, it's just
Yeah.
like any muscle in your brain, like, or any
Mm-hmm.
muscle, your brain is a muscle, right? So
Yeah.
it's just
Gotta
training
train
it.
it.
You're
Yeah.
training it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to think
Yeah.
differently. And just
Mm-hmm.
doing baby steps is where the
Mm-hmm.
change happens, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to change when you're like going from the extremities, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Nothing works that way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do this little shift every day, you will
Mm-hmm.
feel your energy and your mindset change. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you're at a higher level of vibration, like
Mm-hmm.
in this happier state, then
Mm-hmm.
that's when you will find yourself in this mind and body connection where
Mm-hmm.
you can feel your happiness. Like when you feel happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all felt happiness at least once
Yeah.
in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like so good in your body, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like this sensation you get, and you just
Mm-hmm.
know that it's happy. And then your brain
Mm-hmm.
triggers, like, oh, you are happy, right? And you're
Yeah.
smiling and you just feel
Mm-hmm.
carefree. Like it's just this happy feeling that you'll know. And
Mm-hmm.
so when your body and mind are connected to
Mm-hmm.
this happiness vibration, you'll just know. And just gratitude is one of the best ways to just start. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also tell people to do like affirmations every
Yeah.
day of some self-love
Mm-hmm.
affirmations. Like,
Yeah.
I love
Give us some
yourself.
examples.
And it may, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would
Mm-hmm.
highly suggest, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't like to do it, but
Yeah.
go in the mirror, like even when you're
Yeah.
brushing your teeth, before you brush your
Yeah.
teeth, just look at
Uh-huh.
yourself or afterwards and just say, you
Mm-hmm.
are powerful,
Mm-hmm.
you are bright, and you're beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever makes you happy, because we
Yeah.
all have different affirmations. But I just like
Mm-hmm.
to make it very simple, very
Mm-hmm.
easy. And
Mm-hmm.
that just starts your day off with the right intention of like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I am powerful. You're
Yeah.
telling yourself, even though you may
Ooh,
not believe
yeah.
it,
I'm gonna have
but
to
if
start doing
but
that.
if you, yes, it's such a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it's
Mm-hmm.
weird, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
never look at yourself to say nice things. We all look
Yeah.
in the mirror to say, ew, like, look at this stretch
Mm-hmm.
mark, or look, ew, ew, ew,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like, what if we just go in the mirror to say nice things to ourselves every day? And
Mm-hmm.
then you'll start developing. I know a lot of my clients would keep
Mm-hmm.
going, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're like, wow, they start
Mm-hmm.
looking at themselves differently. Like, oh my God, I love my body. Like, thank you for giving me a kid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
instead, they used to say, oh, I got
Yeah.
stretch marks and I look so
Yeah.
fat and blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
you start seeing your mind shifting. It's just these
Mm-hmm.
little practices day to
Yeah.
day is what changes your freaking life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like all
Mm-hmm.
these, huge things. Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
going to therapy is great, but it's a
Right.
consistent thing, right? You go
Mm-hmm.
weekly or monthly, I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
see, doing it consistently all the time is what
Yeah.
gets you to the end
Right.
result of what you want in your life. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what people, that's what I want to teach people. Like,
Yeah.
it's possible, but are you
Mm-hmm.
willing to actually make
Mm-hmm.
those steps every day or
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the times, to
Mm-hmm.
get there?
No, I love all of your tips. I
right?
think that's a
Oh,
great place
thank
to
you.
get started. Uh,
Yeah.
do you think that
Oh,
like if, say someone starts doing these steps, they do the gratitude journal, they're doing,
yeah,
affirmations, and they still kind of feel
yeah,
stuck. They're like, I don't know if I'm doing it right, or like I'm, still feeling
yeah,
stuck. I don't think I'm like getting this like positivity thing. Do you have a
yeah.
tip to kind of get over that hump a little bit?
Yeah, you have to really
Mm-hmm.
trust yourself, and it may be something much deeper
Yeah.
that it's okay to
Yeah.
look for help, okay? Like
Mhm.
sometimes it takes another person to help you bring you out of
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
whatever is really, really stuck in you. So
Yeah.
if you can't get it out, that
Mhm.
means there's some trauma in there that you need to
Mhm.
go look for help
Yeah.
to like either a,
Mhm.
therapist or a coach or someone to just talk you
Mhm.
through it,
Yeah.
and that could be like the shift that
Mhm.
really gets you
Mhm.
over
Yeah.
and helps you out. And it's
Yeah.
okay because
Mhm.
through my depression too, I
Mhm.
actually saw a therapist for a couple months,
Yeah.
and I didn't do it long term because
Mhm.
I learned to do, overcome
Mhm.
it myself. But
Yeah.
I took the first steps to
Mhm.
look for help, and that did
Yeah.
help for a little period of time. And then I was like, I
Right.
don't need it, but
Yeah.
you got to start, and it's
Yeah.
okay to ask for
Mhm.
help.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Like asking for help. I think
Yeah.
that could be the thing that, helps people get over that maybe the mountain that
Mm-hmm.
you can't climb on your own a little bit.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that there's like the capital T trauma and like lowercase t trauma. We're talking about like lowercase t trauma that you can do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
your self work to get
Yeah.
through to a
Yes.
place where you are more um,
Yeah.
individualized and like you're feeling more capable and like maybe more powerful to go achieve the things that you want. And a lot of it is the really small
Yeah.
things and the consistency of it, like you mentioned with doing
Yeah.
gratitude and affirmations and
Yeah.
being nice to
Yeah.
yourself and all of that. So, thank
Yeah.
you for explaining that. I
Yeah.
know you've like
Yeah.
mentioned this earlier about, how you feel like you found your purpose. How
Yeah.
did you know that was your purpose?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, thanks for asking this. Actually,
Uh-huh.
I didn't really know.
Uh-huh.
So, I think self,
Mhm.
like, when you find your life purpose, it's like a journey.
Mhm.
It's like you have to go
Mhm.
through a journey, and then
Mhm.
you'll start learning more and more about yourself,
Mhm.
and then you'll
Yeah.
like one day it'll click and be like, oh my gosh, okay, all these weird things lead up, or
Yeah.
all the hardships lead up to where I'm supposed to be. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't just one event, it just like kind of
Mhm.
led me to it.
Mhm.
So it started with like my infertility journey, and then me
Mhm.
being a life coach. And then that developed more, and I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I really want to help people, but then how am I going to
Yeah.
help people more than just coaching, right?
Mhm.
And so then I got to be on this podcast, and then I got my own
Mhm.
podcast, and then
Mhm.
I was like, no, you have this
Mhm.
feeling in you, like you're like, okay, it's not really there
Mhm.
yet, right? You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm pretty close. Like you just have a hunch. Right when the Bliss Soft
Mhm.
Life concept came, then that was like, okay, wow, I'm meant. Like I felt it in my bones and body,
Mhm.
like this is what I'm meant to do, and
Yeah.
this is my purpose. Like
Yeah.
all these things led up to that thing, and
Mhm.
then I just got clarity out of
Mhm.
nowhere. But it's
Yeah.
like you got to
Mhm.
follow your hunch,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
journey. And people,
Mhm.
some people have it and they're born and they're like,
Mhm.
okay, I know I'm meant to be a monk and
Yeah.
this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
have that,
Mhm.
or some of us take a journey to
Mhm.
get there, but
Mhm.
it's possible, and
Yeah.
as long as you have hope, and
Mhm.
if that's your intention, I think that's a key thing too. Like, what is your
Mhm.
intention? Like, do you really,
Mhm.
really want to figure out what your life purpose is? And if
Yeah.
you do, like your
Mhm.
guides or angels or your higher self will lead you to
Mhm.
that. But is that your intention? I think like
Mhm.
a lot of us don't even think
Mhm.
about it. Like, oh, what's my life purpose here on earth?
Yeah.
Like, some people just want
Mhm.
to live life and be a parent or something, and
Yeah.
they think that's their life purpose.
Yeah.
And that's
And that
okay.
can
That's
be.
their life
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be their
Mhm.
life purpose. But people like us, like who want to help others, is like, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, like you just feel like, okay, something's not enough, right? There's like
Mhm.
this not enough component, that feeling that
Yeah.
you get, so you're
Yeah.
searching for it. And
Right.
so you just have to
Mm-hmm.
keep going and just
Mm-hmm.
trust that you will figure your life purpose, and
Yeah.
everything that
Mm-hmm.
you were taught
Mm-hmm.
leads you to that path. And
Yeah.
so it's been a journey, but it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that response because it definitely makes me feel heard and encouraged because I'm going through
Yeah,
that for
yeah,
myself right now where
really,
I want to have more purpose in life, but I don't think
yeah,
I've quite figured it out yet. And I think the push
yeah.
towards it, part of it was starting the podcast, and that was like,
I love
I don't
that.
know, like an internal nudge that, maybe this is something that I want to
Yes,
try and do. But I still don't think I have that like moment of clarity or like certainty of like just
yeah,
knowing that like, oh, this is it or something. And for all I know, maybe I'll just
yeah.
like not really have that moment, but it could be a slow burn. Who knows?
No,
I do want to live a purpose-driven life, and I think that's a really hard thing to
I
do.
love that.
Like what we had talked about, just being part of immigrant
Yeah,
families that
yeah,
we didn't always get encouraged to go find our purpose. It was, I think
yeah.
our parents were more in the boat of
Mm-hmm.
having a life that's
Yeah,
sustainable, and it's amazing that they were able to do that. But the concept of purpose, it just didn't have space maybe in the first
yeah.
generation immigrant family culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think myself as a 1.5, but I think people usually group me with second generation. But either way, I think the second generation immigrants, they have more of an opportunity to be able to think about their purpose more and maybe work towards finding it and
Yeah,
figuring it out. And I think we're kind of at the precipice of a lot of change in the world. So that also allows us to
yeah.
explore different things. But it's definitely confusing because when
Mm-hmm.
you're in it, you're like, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I hope this is like right for me.
Yeah,
But, even like us, as people who are self-aware and confident,
yeah,
and I like to think that I have those qualities, but it's never like
yeah.
100%. Like confidence and self-awareness, it's linked, but your confidence can go up and down. But I think your like
Yes.
self-worth should be consistent. And I think that,
Yeah, but for sure. See,
hmm
like feel your gut and intuition
yeah,
that you know that you're meant for
hmm
more. And I
yeah,
loved how you said that, you started this podcast because
hmm
you knew that this was
hmm
somewhere,
hmm
a start for you. So this is just the beginning, and I'm just so
yeah,
excited, and I'm like so excited to see where your life purpose takes
yeah.
you. But this
Oh,
is your life purpose. Like you're meant
hmm
to help other people.
hmm
So you have this
yeah,
podcast. But for
yeah,
sure it can grow. But
right.
the thing, if what I can give you a suggestion
hmm
is just to really tap into
hmm
your gut feeling and intuition, and don't
hmm
doubt it. Like you kind of
yeah,
said, like your confidence level goes up and down. Yes, I
yeah,
feel that for you. I
hmm
feel that. I still go through that too
yeah,
sometimes. But
yeah,
in the end, it's like be confident in
hmm
like your intuition telling you. And that's another
hmm
thing that a lot of
hmm
us are
yeah,
so out of tune with our intuition
hmm
because, right, we're always on our phones, we're always watching TV,
hmm
or we're always
yeah,
drowning ourselves with like noise of some sort, like, going
hmm
out, partying, etc. I don't know. Um,
hmm
but it's like we never take that time to just listen to ourselves. So,
hmm
like if that's your intention to figure out what
hmm
your life purpose is,
yeah,
sit down and meditate and ask
hmm
for that. And it'll come
hmm
through and you're just like, "What?"
yeah,
Like that's how my
uh-huh,
that's how the Bliss Soft Life came about, was when I
yeah,
was just having coffee and just being
hmm
quiet, and then it popped in my head,
trusting your
like
gut, yeah,
that's yeah, and that's when the beauty
hmm
comes. And then I was like,
hmm
no, this is crazy. I was like, doubting it for a bit, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
who
totally,
who says that? Like,
hmm
I thought I sounded crazy when I was trying to
hmm
tell my husband. I was like, oh my god,
uh-huh,
babe, I just came up with this concept. He
yeah,
was just like, what? He's like, oh my god, I love it though. Like that totally
yeah,
makes sense. Like I love that
yeah,
for you. And I was like,
yeah,
and
hmm
you'll just know, like you'll just know. And
hmm
I just so excited
hmm
to see you go through that. And
yeah, I appreciate
like the
that,
main thing,
hmm
yeah. But the main thing is, follow your gut intuition,
hmm
and it'll lead you to something.
hmm
And when you'll just feel it. You'll
hmm
just be like, you'll just
hmm
feel bliss. See, this
yeah,
is what I'm talking about, the bliss off life. Like
yeah,
when you're living out your life purpose, you'll
hmm
feel bliss
hmm
and softness. And you're just like, oh my God, this is why I've had to go through all these hardships to be
yeah,
where, I'm meant to do or meant
hmm
to, live.
hmm
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. No, absolutely. I will for sure update you, and I'm sure we'll keep up with each other. And I'll be
Yes.
sure to send you a message when I have my own moment of
Yeah.
like, I think I got it, you know? But no, I appreciate that
Amazing.
so much, and I'm
Yes,
just like listening so intently
of course.
because you're totally right. You're spot on about trusting your gut, and you just have
Yeah.
to go through the process. And I'm like
Yeah.
curious to know, people who are listening, if they're going through the same
Yeah.
finding your purpose
Yes.
journey, I think feel free to reach out to either Kathy or myself. Like, I think either of us would love
Yeah.
to hear other people's story of what they're going
Yes.
through. The last question that I want to ask you today, and we've kind of
Yes.
talked about it throughout the episode today,
Yeah.
but how can people tap into their higher energy? Like, how do you become a high value person?
Yeah. So, thank you for this question because everything is energy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everything. So,
Yeah.
okay, we're here on Earth. So Earth is like this might sound a little woo-woo for you guys, just FYI. But okay, Earth is a low vibrational place. So this is why our
Mm-hmm.
soul comes here to learn and expand. It's
Mm.
like, you know,
Okay.
going to college so you can
Mm-hmm.
like upgrade yourself very quickly. Because,
Yeah.
being here is a low
Mm-hmm.
vibrational thing, and your soul is a very high vibrational thing. And we cannot take
Mm-hmm.
all our soul to this earth. So we take
Yeah.
pieces.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to be at a high vibration, you have to be happy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of us are not happy. We're stressed
Mm-hmm.
out. We're overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
We're not confident. That's why
Mm-hmm.
self love is so important. Self care, loving
Mm-hmm.
yourself, being confident, and just knowing and
Mm-hmm.
trusting that you are this beautiful, amazing soul being.
Mm-hmm.
Just trusting that is another thing that
Mm.
you can do for yourself
Yeah.
to get at a higher vibration,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just very simple. I mean, it doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
crazy complex, but
Yeah.
right, everything, the power moving needle things are always the most simplest,
Mm-hmm.
easiest things.
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to get away at is
Interesting.
yes, the simplest, easiest things is the
Mm-hmm.
moving needle things, but you have to do it
Yeah.
constantly or consistently to have
Mm-hmm.
it work in your life, right?
Mm.
People are always like, oh, I don't see it. Like right away,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main reason why people
Right.
stop, right?
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
trust, they don't keep
Mm-hmm.
following through. So
Yeah.
they just give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you want to be at a higher vibration, you have to be happy. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know yourself, love yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
do the things that make you happy. It's just that
Yeah.
simple. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
when I say it, it's simple, but a lot
Yeah.
of people do not do this or even
Right,
know
right.
what makes them happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, just finding happiness in your
Mm-hmm.
daily life will raise your vibration
Mm-hmm.
immensely. And then
Mm-hmm.
surrounding yourself with like minded people. Don't hang out with toxic people or people
Mm.
that suck your
Yeah.
energy. You'll know,
Definitely.
right? You'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely know. When you hang out with a
Mm-hmm.
person and you're like, you feel drained after, you're like,
Yeah.
they're sucking your energy. You gotta
Yeah.
let them
Yeah.
go or just
Yeah.
hang out with them less. Or when
Mm-hmm.
you are hanging out with them, shield your energy from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to just really start loving yourself and
Mm-hmm.
just tap into your soul and the higher,
Mm-hmm.
being that you are.
Yeah.
And you'll just raise your vibration. It's and
Mm-hmm.
when you're living in this state, literally you
Mm-hmm.
are in a bliss off life. Like everything's just so much easier, so much more bliss, so much more
Mm-hmm.
contentment. You're just more happy, you're more confident. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I want everybody to live life
Yeah.
as because I wish I knew this at a younger age. I wish I knew
Mm-hmm.
this growing up, but
Mm-hmm.
now being 35, I'm like, now I want people to know you can
Yeah.
change your life at any age and you can
Right.
do this work. Anybody can be happy at any age,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to
Yeah.
let people know that we are powerful beings, that you are freaking
Mm-hmm.
powerful and amazing. And you
Mm-hmm.
want to raise your vibration and live happy life, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way that you broke
Oh,
it
thank you.
down, and it's so interesting to
Yeah,
hear the spiritual side of it too, and how you tied that
yeah,
into actions that you can take as a person, and how everything is within your
yeah,
control. I think
yeah.
that adds a lot of
Oh,
different things that people can think about. And thank you so much for
yes.
sharing that. And I think that
Of
really ties
course.
in together with the conversation that we've had today as well. And
Yeah,
I'm just loving hearing everything that you have to say and thank you so much for coming on and like all the things that you've shared.
Yeah.
I can't wait for people to listen to this conversation, and I hope that
Oh,
everyone finds it as insightful.
thank you for even allowing me to come on, talk about,
Of
this
course.
topic. And so
Mhm.
this was beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for coming on.